Hey everybody, welcome to Vince on a Friday. Holy cow, we have a massive show for you. For the next hour, the entire conversation is going to be about Britney Spears and her DUI. Was it right to release her from that situation where her dad controlled her life? And what comes next for Britney? We'll explore every facet. I'm just kidding. We're not doing that story at all. The producers, I know Josh was like, what the hell is he talking about? You doing Britney the whole? No, I'm not doing any Britney. Don't worry. You can find that somewhere else. Go to TMZ for that. No, we do have a massive show for you today. We're going to explore what's going on with the president, the support the president continues to have. It's actually very enduring. You know, don't believe anybody out there who's telling you there's a massive civil war between everybody on the right. No, actually, the base really supports President Trump big time. He just made a change at DHS. We'll talk about what's going on with DHS because, you know, Kristi Noem's on the way out and Markwayne Mullin is on the way in. Also, some big electoral news for you as we get a little bit more detail on what's happening in Texas with the Republican nominee, as well as what's going to happen in Virginia now as the left is trying to rig the entire state and the United States House of Representatives. We've got a lot to get to, don't we? Yes, we do. More ahead on this edition of Vince. Thanks for being here with me. Yeah, sorry about the fake out on Britney. Hey. Oh yes, oh yes. Okay. Let's see here. We got a lot of news breaking in the last 24 hours. It's crazy. It's obviously the Trump administration. I'm like on the radio show yesterday, and I was talking about some of the swirling speculation that Kristi Noem might be leaving, and suddenly the speculation became reality that Kristi Noem is leaving DHS. We'll explore that in just a moment. But let me just start. It's a Friday, so let's start with some interesting and fun news. The president is doing very well in the eyes of Republican voters all across the country. In fact, he is doing so well right now that he is outperforming all, let's emphasize this, all ALL former presidents, all of them, with his own party. Don't take my word for it. Here is old-timey horse racing announcer Harry Enton. Watch.
Republicans love Donald Trump more than any president's own party supporters loved him at this particular point. Just take a look here. Okay, own party supporters, 21st century presidents, own party approval about at this point in the second term. Bush was at 77%. Obama was at 77%. Look at this. 86% of Republicans approve of the job that Donald Trump is doing at this point. That is higher than either Obama or Bush had within their own party at this point. Trump's magic touch has not seemed to wear off yet when it comes to the Republican base.
And what kind of approval are we talking about here?
Okay, so we're talking about overall approval here. How about the strongly approved, not just like, but love. Okay, we're going to look at these same presidents again. Strong approval among your own party's base. What you see here is Trump is the only one who gets a majority at this point in their presidency. Obama was at 48%. Bush was at 47%. You see here Trump at 53%. Not as high as overall approval rating, but still getting a majority of the Republican base, at least in the average of polls, to say that they still really, really, really like him.
Yeah, look, we prefer this guy. What's the alternative? Who else could we have gone with here? It's Donald Trump. You know, this is why so many on the right are ride or die with Trump. They're like, look, this guy is the only one who's been speaking truth for a long time. He's the only one who's delivering results. He's the only one who's fought the machine and won. He's the only guy who gets shot in the head and then goes on to become the president of the United States. He fights his way back into office. Come on now. Of course he's got strong approval ratings. And he's got the record to show for it. I mean, it's been a good second term already. He's been able to bring prices down. He's been able to secure our borders. He's deported a lot of illegals. He's making a lot of arrests. He's bringing peace to the world. And now he's prosecuting a conflict against the signature terror regime on planet Earth, and they're ahead of schedule. Yeah, so Republicans are still high on Trump. Do we debate things that President Trump is considering or doing? Yeah, all the time. Because unlike the left, we engage in spirited and open debate. They have this like tyrannical thing where they just crush anybody who steps outside of the party line. But as far as the base is concerned, people like Trump. They like him better than any of these other former presidents. They like him. And so that's good news for the president as we go into another busy weekend of his second term. Now, yesterday, as I mentioned, the Department of Homeland Security, that we had a big shift there Yeah, the rumor mill was buzzing yesterday that Kristi Noem may be done at the Department of Homeland Security, and sure enough, President Trump makes the big announcement yesterday that that's the case. Here's what he said on Truth Social. This came to us at 1:41 p.m. Eastern time. So for those of you who've tracked me on the radio show, you know this is. I swear to you, this was right in the middle of this segment. I was doing this in the 1:30 time slot yesterday, and I'm going through everything, and it's it was the Rumble chat that told me, hey, Vince, go to Truth Social, because literally the thing you're talking about, the president has just made the announcement. It was done. So I got to it within 2 minutes, I think, faster than every other news network on the planet because of you. So once again, I thank you. I thank you for being the best audience anywhere. And here's what the president said yesterday. I'm pleased to announce that the highly respected United States Senator from the great state of Oklahoma, Markwayne Mullin, is now going to become the United States Secretary of Homeland Security effective March 31st of 2026. The current secretary, Kristi Noem, who has served us well and has had numerous and spectacular results, especially on the border. This is, ladies and gentlemen, this is what I was saying yesterday. When I saw the rumor mill buzzing about Kristi Noem, I was like, wait a second, hold on. She's done a good job. That border is secure. I don't know if there's anybody out there who can doubt that. The border is secure. They're deporting a lot of people. I'm not down on Kristi Noem. I'm high on Kristi Noem. I think she's done a very effective job. I'll get back to the president's message in a second. I had doubts about Kristi Noem when she came into office. I was worried about that. I thought, like, really? She's the DHS secretary? That's going to work for us? That's going to be a good idea? Because I remember when she was governor of South Dakota, she got involved in this nonsense where she seemed to be like kind of okay with the transgender garbage because she was worried about business interests in the state or something. I didn't like that. I was worried that she would be weak when it mattered. And she wasn't. She was strong. She's had a good tenure there. I think it's been pretty good. Now, does it mean there were no problems and nothing worth scrutinizing? No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that she outperformed my expectations. And they definitely secured that border. That's not even a debate. More from the president here, though. They say, he says he's moving her. She'll become the special envoy for the Shield of the Americas. The special envoy for the Shield of the Americas, our new security initiative in the Western Hemisphere that we are announcing on Saturday in Doral, Florida. I thank Kristi for her service at Homeland. So let's dwell on this for a moment, this thing. Now, is she being fired or is she being promoted? You know, the truth is only time will be able to tell the answer to that question. Because sometimes people are given jobs that are just like ceremonial titles and they end up not doing that much. And it's just a way to kind of like pat them on the head, keep them in the fold, not alienate them. You don't need an enemy. Just give them something to do. Or this could be really consequential. This could be a very consequential thing. They're announcing something brand new, special envoy for the Shield of the Americas. So only time will be able to tell on the subject to that question. Josh, what's the title of the show today? I saw some people in the chat asking about the title. Did we say that she was canned, that she was fired, that she was trebucheted? Is that what we said? Oh, Trump axes Noem. Not like asks Noem. She axes. Well, you know, these titles, we kind of come up with these titles on the fly, and you know, that may not be the perfect title. We could adjust the title, but the reality is, like, only time's going to tell what the deal with Kristi Noem is and whether or not she has a meaningful role. It does seem like a big deal, though. If you're asking her to be the head of the security for the Western Hemisphere, that goes right to the Don Roe Doctrine and what the president wants to do with the Western Hemisphere. So he's still placing trust in her, no doubt, in whatever capacity. Additionally, he goes on to say that, look, Markwayne Mullin's a great guy. He served in the House for a decade, 3 years in the Senate. He represents Oklahoma well. That's a state where Trump won 77 out of 77 counties, he needs you to know, in all three of his presidential elections. He says Markwayne Mullin's a MAGA warrior, a former undefeated professional MMA fighter, which we could use some toughness with when it comes to illegal immigration. Markwayne Mullin truly gets along well with people, and he knows the wisdom and the courage required to advance our America First agenda. He is, contrary to Elizabeth Warren's claims, the only Native American in the Senate Markwayne is a fantastic advocate for our incredible tribal communities. Markwayne will work tirelessly to keep our borders secure, stop migrant crime, murderers, and other criminals from illegally entering our country, and the scourge of illegal drugs, and make America safe again. Markwayne will make a spectacular Secretary of Homeland Security. Thank you for your attention to this matter. In all caps, President Donald J. Trump. All right, so he makes the big announcement. So, what's the fallout of all of this? Well, Markwayne Mullin says he's very excited to get started. In fact, he's very ready to get started. Here is a little bit of Senator right now, Mullin, yesterday. Cut to, watch.
Well, it came from the White House, so it came from the switchboard. But I was excited. The president, first of all, the president, I have a really good relationship. We talk all the time anyways. I've got to be honest with you, I wasn't expecting the call today, but super excited. And I'm more excited about just ready to get started. There's a lot of work we can do to get Department of Homeland Security working, working for the American people. The Department of Homeland Security has a very broad jurisdiction. And I think there's a lot of work that we need to do, and I'm excited. Kristi is a friend, and I haven't had time to call Kristi yet, and our Secretary Noem, and our families are friends. She was tasked to do a very difficult job, and I think she has performed the best she can do underneath the circumstances. Is there always lessons that can be learned? Listen, my wife and I, over the years, we have been fortunate enough to purchase companies and grow our companies, and every day there's something you can do better. And so I think there's an opportunity to build off successes, and there's also opportunities to build off things that maybe didn't go quite as planned.
There's opportunities to build off of things that didn't go quite as planned. Okay. Well, that is a clear indication that not everything was going well enough, and that and Markwayne Mullin clearly knows, probably because the president told him, there are things that he doesn't like going on at DHS that need to be tightened up. What might those be? Well, Bill Maloogian at the Fox News Channel gave us an interesting summary of how all of this went down. Here he is explaining what led to Kristi Noem's ouster and why Markwayne Mullin was the pick. Here's Bill. Listen.
Been brewing for a couple months. It started in Minneapolis with all of the bad headlines that were coming out there every day. It escalated when Secretary Noem went on TV and called Alex Preddy and Renee Good domestic terrorists. It escalated further when Tom Homan was brought in to essentially be the shot caller there, and Noem and Greg Bongino were essentially sidelined. But then it hit a snowball effect this week with her testimony here on the Hill. And we just got some clarity as to what happened with Senator John Kennedy and Noem and the White House earlier this week. Senator Kennedy just gaggled with reporters here at the Hill a short time ago, and he gave us a bigger picture look at this. So he said ahead of that hearing, he had heard about this $200 million ad buy that DHS and Secretary Noem did. Of course, we've seen the ads where she's on horseback and she's featured heavily. There were some allegations that maybe there was some cronyism in those contracts. So Senator Kennedy said that he was offended by the size and scope of that contract. So he called up the White House and he said, we've got Noem on the Hill tomorrow. I would like to press her under oath and ask her about this contract. And he said the White House essentially didn't oppose it, said go ahead. So then we see that hearing on Tuesday where he pressed her about the contract directly, and he asked her repeatedly, did President Trump personally approve of this contract to spend $200 million on this ad contract? And Kristi Noem replied under oath that yes, he did. Well, President Trump is now saying.
Yeah, Noem replied under oath that he did. In fact, I'm going to show you two pieces of video. First and foremost, here's the ad. This is cut 5. Let's do the ad first. This is the ad that everybody's talking about. It's an ad that you may have seen on some of the conservative news channels. This has been airing on places like Fox News and Newsmax, apparently. Okay, that's fine, but I don't think illegal aliens are watching Fox or Newsmax, so I'm not really sure how this works exactly. But here you go. Here's the ad.
Why do I love these wide open spaces? They remind me of why our forefathers came here, not just for its beauty, but for the freedom only America provides. I'm Kristi Noem. From the cowboys who tamed the West, to the titans who built our cities, to the dreamers who chased the impossible, America has always rewarded vision and grit. Our greatness calls people to us for a chance to prosper, to live how they choose, to become part of something special. Anyone who searches for freedom can always find a home here, but that freedom's a precious thing, and we defend it vigorously. You cross the border illegally, we'll find you. Break our laws, we'll punish you. Harm American citizens, there will be consequences.
Okay, that's
But
not,
if you come here the right way, your American dream.
Look, it's a good-looking ad. She's a good-looking woman riding a good-looking horse in a good-looking ad, talking about how great our country is. That's all well and good, and telling illegals, you better not cross our border illegally. We'll find you. Okay, but it was $250 million to run that spot, and it was running mostly I don't know. I can't speak to where the whole contract was, but I know it was running on kind of the more conservative news outlets, which is obviously kind of an image campaign for the right. So John Kennedy, he got the clearance, the go-ahead, the push. Somebody told him, let's have this exchange. So that's how this ended up happening this past week. Watch, John Kennedy and Kristi Noem.
The president approved ahead of time you spending $220 million running TV ads across the country in which you are featured prominently.
Yes, sir. We went through the legal processes, did it correctly.
Did the president know you were going to do this?
Yes.
He did?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay.
And one thing, Senator, I think would be helpful to know is how effective that communications has been. That
well, they
overwhelmingly
were effective in your name recognition. I mean, I personally just, I mean, to me, it puts the president in a terribly awkward spot. And and I'm not saying you're not telling the truth. It's just hard for me to believe, knowing the president, as I do, that you said, Mr. President, here's some ads I've cut, and I'm going to spend $220 million running them, that he would have agreed to that.
Kennedy would leave that hearing, talk to the president about all of this, and said that President Trump was, only in the way that John Kennedy could say it, President Trump was mad as a murder hornet, he said, about that exchange. The claim is that President Trump didn't sign off on the ad campaign. Either way, that's the TikTok of how we got to where we got to yesterday. That was the sequence of events. And Kristi Noem out, Markwayne Mullin in. Now, what does that mean for the United States Senate? Markwayne Mullin's a good senator. Markwayne Mullin's a guy who supports the talking filibuster in order to get the SAVE Act passed. Markwayne Mullin's one of the good guys, and he's off now to go to DHS. So how does he get replaced? What happens here? Well, first and foremost, to replace him as senator, that's up to the governor of Oklahoma, Kevin Stitt. He's a Republican. And Oklahoma law allows the governor to appoint that replacement in event of a vacancy. And that person will fill that vacancy all the way up until the next general election, which is this year, actually. Markwayne Mullin was up for election this year, in November of this year. There was a law passed in Oklahoma a couple years back, and it basically made it so that you can't put the person into office who will just become kind of the incumbent that takes it going forward. In fact, the person who goes in has to be a registered Oklahoma voter. They have to be from the same party as the senator who just created the vacancy. That would be a Republican, and they are barred from running for the office in the next election. So this person, whoever he picks, can't be the next senator who runs in the election. So Markwayne Mullin steps out, and here you have Kevin Stitt is going to make a pick here just to replace him. He's already indicated he wants a small government conservative to be that pick, and he's going to make his decision. So we'll keep an eye on that particular thing. And then on Markwayne Mullin becoming the DHS secretary, there's a wisdom in what President Trump just did, which is he picked a United States senator. Look, anybody he picks for the cabinet has to go through the confirmation process. And there's no agency that the left hates more than the Department of Homeland Security. But if the president is going to be able to pick anybody that could possibly get some Democrat votes in the Senate, it might have to be someone that they know personally. Remember, when Marco Rubio came in as Secretary of State, he sailed through the Senate with flying colors. He got all sorts of support. And by the way, Democrats since then have signaled, many of them, they regret voting for Marco Rubio, given how effective he has been as Secretary of State. Is the Markwayne Mullin confirmation process going to be contentious? Yes. get ready for a bunch of nonsensical drama in the midst of all of this. Chuck Schumer's already promising he's not going to support Markwayne Mullin. And he says it's not even because of who he is personally. He says that it's all about the policy at DHS. He said, I've been asked, would I support Senator Mullin as Noem's replacement? The answer is a resounding no. The rot in DHS is deep, much deeper than any individual. It's a question of policy, not personnel. The Senate shouldn't consider any DHS secretary nominee until DHS and ICE are reined in. So Schumer, the psycho, is fully against anybody getting the job. They don't want to fund DHS. They just voted against it yesterday. They don't want DHS to even have a leader. They want utter chaos in the United States. So you can't count on Chuck Schumer and a lot of these Democrats. But you can count on at least one. Any guesses? I'm not even going to wait for an answer. It's John Fetterman, of course. It's always John Fetterman. Fetterman says, as a member of the Homeland Security Committee and a ranking member of the Subcommittee on Border Security, I'm not sure how many fellow Democrats will vote to support our colleague, Senator Mullin, as the next DHS secretary. But I am I. He's for him. He's coming. That I am I. For those listening, it's AYE. He's as opposed to an A. He's going to vote for Markwayne Mullin. He's seen enough. He's in. May other Democrats join him. We got to get this guy through. We have to get this guy through. All right, more in a moment. We've got a lot going on today, including a very important election beginning today in Virginia. The left is trying to steal the entire United States House of Representatives, and Virginians have a mighty opportunity to stop it. I've got updates on that. Also, the Iran strikes. What are they doing to the Chi-Coms? Very few people are talking about this. I have Gordon Chang coming up on the program. Gordon is going to give us some deep insight into how impacted China is by what's going on in Iran right now. It's all ahead on this edition of Vince. Today's the day. Today's the day. Carnage25 says, what about the Save America Act? Slow your roll. I'm going to get there. I'm going to get there. I promise. I promise. Love you, Carnage. Thank you for asking. I'm on board with this too, buddy. We've got a lot to get to. But let's talk about Virginia right now. The left is trying to rig the election. They want to steal all these congressional seats. By now, if you've been following the podcast, you know that what they're trying to do is take a 6-5 state and turn it into a 10-1 state, Democrats to Republicans, and they want to do it right now in the midterms. It is a theft operation. On the ballot before Virginia voters is a question today. It's a referendum. Starts today, runs through April 21st. And the question is, do you want to, quote, restore fairness to elections? Do you want to restore fairness? It's a lie. It's misdirection. It's intentionally meant to confuse the voter into compliance, to rig the elections in Virginia. The mandate here for any American who doesn't want to rig elections, who doesn't want Democrats to steal them, is to vote no. So if you're in Virginia, vote no. If you're not in Virginia, tell the guy you know in Virginia to vote no. Go to the polls, vote no. And how do you want it? You want more evidence that this is an entirely rigged operation? Look no further than Barack frickin' Obama coming out yesterday and telling everybody they need to vote yes on this election rigging operation. Cut 8. Here's Barack.
Free and fair elections are the cornerstone of our democracy, but right now they are under threat. Over the past year, several Republican-controlled states have taken the unprecedented step of redrawing their congressional maps in the middle of the decade. And they've done it for a simple reason: to give themselves an unfair advantage in the midterms this fall.
All right, so there's Obama.
Virginians
Obama's saying vote yes.
Sure
now, of course, you should vote no. You should do the opposite of what Obama tells you to do. But the frame up there that Obama's putting forward is this is the talking point from the left, that somehow Republicans started this, so we need to fight back. Of course, that's a perfect inversion of the truth. It was Democrats who started this, Democrats who have ill-gotten seats all across the country, Democrats who've used illegal aliens to get unearned congressional seats, unearned electoral college votes, Democrats who, through the benefit of the United States Census in 2020, got seats that they didn't deserve. And meanwhile, Republican states were undercounted in that United States Census, and they didn't get the seats that they did deserve. It's a never-ending election rigging operation by the left. And the balance of the House is tilted way too far in the direction of the left. It's not in any way proportional or representative of the people. So in light of that, what has President Trump been doing? He says, well, they got to fight back for once. So in Texas, they did. They tried in Indiana. That failed miserably because Republicans in Indiana didn't have the testicular fortitude to save the country. And now in Virginia, they're going for broke. They're trying to rig it to the point that they can guarantee victory in the United States House of Representatives this year. That's Obama doing that. That's an establishment rigging operation. And then, of course, there's the governor of the state. I showed you a little bit of this yesterday. Here's Abigail Spanberger doing the very thing. Cut 9, same thing Obama did. Watch.
Hello, I'm Governor Abigail Spanberger, and I'm voting yes on Virginia's redistricting amendment. Here's why. I supported the formation of Virginia's bipartisan redistricting commission in 2020, and that support has not changed.
Yes,
what
it has.
What has changed is what we're seeing in states across the country, and a president who says that he's, quote, entitled to more Republican seats before this year's midterms. That's a direct quote, entitled. And Virginia has the opportunity to take action in response. And our approach is different. First, it's temporary.
She's lying.
Second,
all right, that's enough. So she says it's temporary. We're only going to do this for one election. Our tyranny is only going to exist for a single election. After that, it'll go back to normal. No, it won't. No, you'll do this in perpetuity. We have to stop this while we have the chance. And we can't let them steal these seats. The former governor of Virginia, Glenn Youngkin, Republican, he just put a video out last night saying, you've got to vote no on this. And Abigail Spanberger's a big fat liar. Watch Glenn Youngkin.
Virginia, it's Glenn Youngkin. Tomorrow is your chance to stop the most partisan power grab in the history of our Commonwealth. Just 6 years ago, 2/3 of Virginians spoke loud and clear when they voted to make independent, nonpartisan redistricting part of our Constitution. Now, far-left politicians in the Capitol are trying to overturn the will of the people. Why? Because they want more power. That's it. They want to disenfranchise millions of Virginians to gain more power for themselves. All you need to do is look at the shape of the proposed maps to realize how shameless they are. Yeah. In 2020, then Congresswoman Abigail Spanberger said, quote, gerrymandering is detrimental to our democracy and weakens individual voices. She said, quote, opposing redistricting should be a bipartisan priority. And just last year, then candidate Abigail Spanberger promised on the campaign trail, quote, I have no plan to redistrict Virginia. I agree with Congresswoman and candidate Spanberger.
So in other words, I strongly disagree with Glenn Youngkin. All right, so there you have it. If you're in Virginia today, vote no. If you know somebody in Virginia today, tell them to vote no. And then just keep bugging them. Have you voted yet? Have you voted yet? Have you voted yet? Keep asking until they told you they have, Because, if the incentive to do the right thing isn't enough, maybe the incentive to get you to stop texting them will be enough. Whatever it takes. We got to get this done, ladies and gentlemen. All right, coming up, I want to talk about the strikes in Iran, the impacts on the Chi-Coms. We have a lot more to address on the program. Gordon Chang is joining us in just a moment. First, I want to thank some great sponsors to our show. All right. Let's talk about an important conflict going on right now. The United States and Israel are striking with each passing day Iran, and they say they're ahead of schedule, debilitating all of Iran's defenses and taking out that lunatic terror regime. For more on the impact, especially to China, I want to bring in the great Gordon G. Chang. You can see him on X, at Gordon G. Chang, and he joins us today. Sir, it is nice to have you with us. It's always good to get your insights on China in particular. So what I saw this past week is we strike Iran. They kill the Ayatollah. They kill all these senior leaders in Iranian leadership. And I instantly thought, man, the impact on China must be big because Iran exports 90% of its oil to China. China, which has no domestic oil production, they need countries like Iran to send them oil at these low prices that they're not purchasing on the open market. What's the impact here on the Chinese?
Percent of its imported oil.
All right, let me pause. I'm sorry. 1 second, Gordon. Let me just pause because I'm getting a signal on our chat that people can't hear you. Hey, Josh, can people hear Gordon Chang yet? You can hear him now. Okay, good. I just want to make sure. Thank you, chat, for alerting us. We have a constant tech support available to us. Tens of thousands of people all respond at the same time that they can't hear you. So Let me restate the question, and then we'll edit all of this down for the podcast so people can hear it in rapid succession. Gordon Chang, we saw what happened in Iran. We saw the strikes on the leadership there. I instantly think of China as this happens because 90% of Iran's oil exports go to China. Tell us about the impact on China.
We know the impact, Vince, because in the last few days, the price of gasoline has increased 11.0%. But more important for the Chinese economy, the price of diesel has soared 13.5%. China last year took 87.2% of Iran's exports of crude oil. And through the Strait of Hormuz, China gets somewhere between 40 to 50% of its imported oil. This is really important because China right now has very little domestic oil production, and that means it relies on these imports. If they don't get it from the Gulf, they've got to buy it from Russia. And by the way, the Russians are going to charge more.
Yes. So in other words, like the ability for them to do anything as an economy is being hamstrung because the cost of energy directly correlates to how productive you can be.
Right. And there's one other aspect, and that is China's been buying a lot of discounted oil from places like Iran and Venezuela, and they've been using the Chinese currency to do that. Well, if you're buying from Russia, it's more likely that they're going to have to start paying dollars. And if they buy more on the open market, they're certainly paying dollars, and China doesn't want to do that.
Well, it seems to me that the primary exports of these countries, these terror regimes like Venezuela under Maduro and under Khamenei in Iran, has been oil, and then they use the revenue from that oil to pay for terrorism. So in Venezuela, it's in the form of narco-terrorism. In Iran, it's in the form of like actual Islamist terrorism, and that those revenue streams being cut off must have a huge benefit to try and bring down the temperature on the planet.
Yes, and that's important because once we take Iran off the table, then the Middle East actually has a chance for enduring peace. You have President Trump's Abraham Accords of the first term. Those can be extended, especially to Saudi Arabia, if we can get that sorted out. And that will be the way that for peace in that extremely troubled region. So you can be optimistic once President Trump takes down the Ayatollah's regime.
Okay, what is China doing right now, if anything, to assist Iran in this conflict?
China has been supplying intelligence, and they've been doing that clearly in open sources because they've been publishing the location and showing the Iranians the location of American military assets. They're probably also doing it surreptitiously, as the Russians have been doing surreptitiously. So that's important. But also we know that China's been supplying the components for Iran's weapons. Iran makes virtually no semiconductors. They get all of those chips for their drones and other weapons from China. China supplies the components for ballistic missile fuel. And we know that China has the components for North Korea's Hwasong-15. The reason why that's important, Vince, is that the Hwasong-15 is an intercontinental ballistic missile. It has a range of 12,000 kilometers. Fired from Iranian soil, it can hit any part of the United States. Now, we don't know if the Iranians have been able to put those components together, but they have it all there, which means that this has become an imminent war. People say, oh, why did we need to strike Iran now? Well, we needed to strike Iran now because they have highly enriched uranium, very close to weapons grade, and they have a ballistic missile that can deliver it to, your favorite city in the United States.
What have we learned about the quality of Chinese military technology in this conflict? I've seen some claims that it's been poorly performing against American weapon systems. What is your assessment?
The assessment so far, and this really needs this will not be definitive until long after this war is over. But so far, we know that it hasn't worked because. Right now, America and Israel have control of the skies. Go back to January 3rd. Venezuela had an export version of China's radars and integrated command system, and they somehow didn't see more than 150 American aircraft in or near Venezuelan airspace. Mm-hmm. Well, this story is really true for Iran as well. I sort of assumed that in the interim, after Venezuela and before Saturday's attack, that China supplied more advanced versions of its radars. But obviously that didn't help because American stealth and American tactics were able to neutralize Iran's air defenses.
Do you think China is all in on Iran right now, or does China believe that Iran is going to lose this conflict? So they're kind of giving them, I don't know. I don't know how else to put this, a half-ass effort.
China hasn't supplied soldiers, so it's not, I guess you can say it's not all in. But apart from that, it's all in. And yeah, I think the Chinese understand that they're going to lose Iran unless they can intimidate President Trump into not continuing the airstrikes. The whole issue is going to be what passes through the Strait of Hormuz. And if you have, for instance, all of these hundreds of ships trapped on both sides of the strait, and if they can't get through, there's going to be a lot of pressure on the Oval Office. But I hope President Trump actually resists that, because this is really the battlefield for the world right now. We win in Iran, which we can. It's within our control. We have enduring peace throughout the globe.
Is there a scenario where China starts buying a lot more American energy to make up for the shortfalls of not having access to Venezuela and Iran?
Yes, they have been buying American LNG, for instance, in the past, but they've been diverting those cargoes to Europe. And so they haven't been taking very much in the way of American energy. That could very well change if you have a desperate China. But more important, we need to sell to our friends, because Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, for instance, are even more dependent on China than oil coming out of the Strait of Hormuz. And we need to support them before we support China.
Yeah, okay. What else should we be on guard for as it relates to China right now?
Well, people, talk about Taiwan because people say, well, the United States is tied down, bogged down, whatever word you want to use in the Middle East. And so they'll go after Taiwan. I don't think that's the case. And the reason is that the Chinese military right now is incapable of launching hostilities against the main island of Taiwan, because the chain of command has been severed because of Xi Jinping's relentless purges, which has left the top of the Chinese military decimated. So, for instance, on the Communist Party Central Military Commission, which controls the military, there's only 2 of 7 members now. One is Xi Jinping and the other is a political commissar, which means there are no operational officers on the Central Military Commission. That means you got a military that really can't start a war. It can stumble into a war, and the chance of that is actually quite high, Vince, but it can't start one.
I wonder also what you think the Chinese leadership thinks of President Trump now and his resolve, because there's lots of, American presidents who pay lip service to the kinds of things they might do if red lines, for instance, are crossed. President Trump has demonstrated through the course of especially the conflicts in Venezuela and now Iran that he means what he says, that he said, like, if you don't play ball with him, he is going in, he will grab you, he will kill you, whatever it is he needs to do to advance American foreign policy. What's the message you think the Chinese are deriving about President Trump's resolve?
2026 was a good year for us because the Chinese now respect President Trump. We know that in 2025 and earlier years, they really did not respect him. They pushed him around and they were chortling. They were telling everybody, oh, the United States is in terminal decline. Trump is, not a factor. Now, they don't say that anymore from what we can tell. But also just thinking about it, since Trump has taken Venezuela off the board, is going to take Cuba off the board, and is beating the crap out of Iran, I think the Chinese now respect Trump. And one thing, Vince, Trump wants to go to Beijing, and I don't think he should go right now because the Chinese are killing Americans in effect in Iran. But I don't think the Chinese want Trump in Iran, in Beijing, because, they don't want this victorious, triumphant guy tramping around their capital. So there's been a real stark change in the way the Chinese view Trump. And this is really good for the United States.
Yes. I mean, you're right, though. It's like the president goes around the world, he kicks out their power cords all over the place, and then they welcome him like a hero in their own country. That would be a big deal.
Yeah. So this is very, very good for us right now.
Amazing. All right, Gordon Chang is always available at Gordon G. Chang on X. Sir, thank you for your wisdom as always. Nice to talk to you today.
Oh, well, thanks so much, Vincent. Stay safe.
Thank you very much. There he is, Gordon Chang. I've been eager to talk to Gordon all week. Glad we could get him to stop by because what a big impact on China. That's what an underappreciated but deeply important component to this whole story about what's going on in Iran right now. Thank you to Gordon Chang for helping us understand it. All right. Let's see. There are other things that I want to hit with you today as well. We talked about the SAVE Act. We've been talking about the SAVE Act. We never stopped talking about the SAVE Act, in fact, because we're like the entire opening force, the seminal force for getting the SAVE Act passed in terms of the media. We've been on this thing for a very long time, including getting these senators to actually take the floor to mount a talking filibuster. So what do we have as it relates to the SAVE Act? Well, we got a couple of updates on the SAVE Act this week, which is one, that Texas Senate race, which is very, very interesting what's going on. John Cornyn, Ken Paxton, the final two guys are in the runoff right now. We were talking about this at length yesterday. President Trump made a big jump into that race by saying he's going to make an endorsement. The other guy needs to get out. Now, Ken Paxton was asked about this 2 nights ago by Just the News. Like, hey, if President Trump endorses Cornyn, which is what all the public reporting suggests is going to happen. If President Trump endorses John Cornyn, the incumbent, the establishment Republican, will you get out of the race or are you staying in? And here's what Ken Paxton said to John Solomon this week. Cut 11, watch.
No, I'm staying in this race. I owe it to the people of Texas. I've spent a year of my life campaigning against John Cornyn because John has not represented the people of Texas well. He sided with Joe Biden on Second Amendment restrictions. He sided with Joe Biden on bringing Afghan refugees to settle here without vetting them. But he's been against Trump in both of his elections, said he shouldn't run last time, that his day had passed. And, of course, he fought him on the border wall. He's been an amnesty guy. Everything that Trump stood for, John Cornyn's fought. But he wasn't a big help to Joe Biden. The people of Texas, at least the Republicans, would like something different.
All right. So Paxton says, I'm staying in the race. Like, I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying. The president hears this and he responds to it. Here's how that went. The president yesterday in a conversation with Politico said, that's bad. That's bad for him to say. President Trump, the Politico reported, appears to be leaning towards endorsing John Cornyn in the Texas GOP primary, issuing a stark warning to Ken Paxton in an interview with Politico. The president, of course, did say that he's going to be making his decision pretty soon. And then when told that Paxton had just told Just the News that he's not dropping out, even if Trump endorses Cornyn, the president responded, well, that's bad for him to say. That is bad for him. So maybe that leads me to go the other direction, suggesting that perhaps Paxton's remarks are pushing him in the direction of Cornyn. Is that what's happening here? Well, whatever the president's intentions here, Ken Paxton added a wonderful addition to this story yesterday. He said, I'll tell you what, you want me to leave this race? You want me to drop out? I'll do it under one gigantic condition. Give us the SAVE Act. Here's what Ken Paxton said yesterday. The Save America Act is the most important bill the United States Senate could ever pass. And I'm committed to helping President Trump get it done. I would consider dropping out of this race if Senate leadership agrees to lift the filibuster and passes the Save America Act. John Cornyn is a coward who has refused to support abolishing the filibuster to pass this bill. Now, fake news reporters in the establishment are trying to destroy me with misinformation. The truth is clear. No one has been more loyal to Donald Trump than me, fighting the stolen 2020 election, being in Mar-a-Lago when he announced his 2024 campaign, and standing with him in New York in the face of lawfare. For the good of our country and for the good of passing President Trump's agenda, I am determined to help him get this done. Look, let me tell you about the masterstroke you're witnessing here from Ken Paxton. He's saying, I don't have to be a problem for you guys. I don't have to be a problem for President Trump making an endorsement. I don't have to be a problem for John Cornyn. I could make this real easy for everybody. And here's how I'm going to make it easy. I'm putting an offer on the table for you. You pass the SAVE Act, I'm out of your hair. then okay, fine. John Cornyn, the establishment guy, he can be the nominee. Then Texans can go, if necessary, hold their nose, vote for the guy. But if you get the Save America Act passed, it's not just one Texas Senate race that's impacted. It's every race in the whole country. We get integrity. We get credibility to our elections across the whole country. Only Americans are registered to vote. You have to show ID in every state. I don't care how blue and Democrat and demented it is. You've got to show ID to vote. You've got to show ID when you send in an absentee ballot under the limited circumstances that'll even be possible to do. We clean up the voter rolls. We get rid of non-citizens. We get the dead people off the rolls. We make it so that Americans can trust their elections at every level all across the country. You do that, yeah, I'd be willing to drop out. Paxton's throwing down. This is a great and important move. So what's Cornyn going to do with all of this? Now, here's the sequence of events that I'd like to see insofar as any of this plays out. Here's the sequence of events I'd like to see. Get the SAVE Act passed first. You do that first. Do it right now. Get it going. And then, if that happens, then we see Ken Paxton say, okay, mission accomplished. I'm out. You did it. Thank you. But until that happens, I don't want to see him dug. And I don't want false promises. I don't want people telling the president they're actually going to do it when they don't intend to actually do it. I don't want any of that. Republicans are constantly trying to pull, I'm talking about establishment Republicans in leadership, have constantly been trying to pull the wool over President Trump's eyes, constantly trying to mislead him about what they want to do. And the president, I think by now, he's had enough of that crap. He wants actual commitment. So yesterday, President Trump was posting about the SAVE Act. And he posted 2 iterations of the same post to Truth Social. And I thought this was interesting because you want to know how much the president pays attention to the base? Look at this. Let me show you a perfect example of this. And the base all wants Ken Paxton, by the way. The whole base is telling President Trump, endorse Ken Paxton on Truth Social. So here's what happened yesterday. The president goes to Truth Social and he posts early in the day that he wants the Save America Act and he wants it with 5 components. You ready for this? Watch this. 5 components. He says, the Save America Act, all voters must show voter ID. All voters must show proof of citizenship in order to vote. No mail-in ballots except for illness, disability, military, or travel. No men and women's sports. No transgender mutilation surgery for children without the express written approval of the parents. You see what happened in that 5th item? That 5th item's no good. That 5th item is no good. I saw that yesterday and I was like, look, I support everything in here except for that 5th item. That 5th item, no transgender mutilation surgery without the express written approval of the parents. I'm sorry. I don't care if a parent writes a note that says you can mutilate my child. Abuse is not on the menu. That's not on the menu. You're abusing a child, to hell with you. So when the president puts that qualification on number 5, I paused. I saw this yesterday. We said this on the radio show yesterday. I was like, I'm with you on all of this, except for that whole thing about parents can mutilate the kids with their permission. No, they can't do that either. So what happened? Well, you responded to this. I responded. The whole base went crazy about this. We're like, whoa. Number 5, not going to work for me. So you know what the president did? He deleted the Truth Social post and he replaced it. And number 5 has been modified. Now it just says no transgender mutilation surgery for children. This dude listens. He listens. That's all I'm saying. So if you want the president to endorse Ken Paxton, even at this hour, at Friday, 8:55 a.m. Eastern time, at this hour, he has not made an endorsement yet. Just keep telling him you want Ken Paxton. Just tell him. It'd be an easier thing. I don't know what's going to happen when Markwayne Mullin leaves the Senate. I don't know what's going to happen to the whip count on the Save America Act. I can't predict the future. All I can tell you is that, we're in a dicey situation right now, and I'd like to navigate out of it by getting good, competent legislation passed. If Ken Paxton can use leverage right now to get the Save America Act passed, he will be a hero in my eyes, just a complete hero for what he did to save our country. Ken is throwing down in such a consequential way. And the president should use this as leverage. My guess is he is using it as leverage, that he's trying to get John Cornyn and John Thune to play ball. And why wouldn't he? This is the perfect opportunity. If Thune is going to President Trump right now and begging for a Cornyn endorsement, then the president can say, I'll tell you what, that happens under this circumstance. You give me the SAVE Act. You actually do it. Not a show vote, not a, oh, we tried, but Democrats got in the way, so we couldn't take it on. No, I want a full-blown talking filibuster fight on the Senate floor for the American people to see, complete with an actual passage of the SAVE Act. You give me that, I give you Cornyn. That's the art of the deal, baby. That's the art of the deal. Let's see what happens. We've got to keep our eyes on that. I want to end today with one of the big hoaxes of the week. We got the left advancing yet another hoax this week. A claim that the Justice Department has abandoned the AutoPen investigation, that it's over. There's no AutoPen investigation anymore, the New York Times claims. Justice Department, under pressure from Trump, fails to build AutoPen case against Biden. You know what we're talking about here. It's the non-compos mentis president. They had a robot running the entire administration, you know, Susan Rice and company and whatever, just pulling the trigger and signing legislation, executive orders, signing pardons. The New York Times claims that the Justice Department, after calls by President Trump to investigate former President Joseph R. Biden Jr., scrutinized whether Mr. Biden and his aides broke the law in using the AutoPen. First of all, if Biden is non-compos mentis, meaning he is not of sound mind, that he can't tell people to use the pen, how is it that Biden is the one breaking the law, you absolute morons? Biden, we can catch him on all sorts of things. But if the idea is that he's a vegetable and the people around him are exploiting the AutoPen to pretend to be him, they're the ones implicated in law breaking, whether Mr. Biden and his aides broke the law. The New York Times doesn't even know how this story goes. It was ultimately unable to move forward with making a case, the Times says. According to 3 people briefed on the matter, the department's failure to build a criminal case against Mr. Biden and his aides, they once again get this wrong, is the latest example of its increasing inability to follow through on Mr. Trump's demands and bring indictments against those he wants to be criminally targeted. So this is the New York Times claiming something to be true, the investigation is dead, and then doing a victory lap on the thing that they claim to be true. So what is true? Is that true? Well, here's an encouraging little post by Jeanine Pirro. She's the Senate-confirmed U.S. Attorney for Washington, D.C. Look at this post, and you tell me if you can read between the lines on it. You ready? We cannot comment on ongoing investigations. We cannot. What's that? What is that? What are these words? We cannot comment on ongoing investigations. That's fun. That's fun. She can't comment, you see, on the ongoing investigation. That's fun. I like that. I like that a lot. Jake Gibson is a producer over at Fox. He's got this too. He adds some more color. A senior DOJ official tells us the AutoPen investigation is ongoing. It's not closed. They added that investigators are looking at the last couple of months of the Biden administration, specifically pardons and commutations. This official also points out that the use of the AutoPen by a sitting president is established law. The issue is whether it was used in violation of the law, as in, did President Biden actually bless every single name on any list of pardons or commutations? It's also clear that the target of any potential prosecution would not be former President Biden himself. Yeah, for the reasons I just mentioned. Because if he's the vegetable, everybody else is breaking the law by pretending to be president. Quote, it's hard to imagine how Biden could be criminally liable for pardon power, said the senior DOJ official, describing that power as basically limitless. Yeah, again, that we could just keep explaining this, but that's the point. It's about the people who didn't have the right to pretend to be president using presidential powers. And there you go. That's it. So it is ongoing. Fox reports, and a huge, obvious, rub a highlighter on it hint from Jeanine Pirro that the investigation is ongoing, contrary to what the old gray lady wants you to believe over at the New York Times. That's fun. Okay. At any rate, it has been great to be with you today. Another jam-packed show. We've got another one for you coming up on Monday, I assure you. It's always so good to talk to the best audience anywhere. Thank you for all of the success you've helped us have. I appreciate you for that.